Is that a Mora?
This is a Mora one, which is a place in Sweden, which is famous for making blades, and this one's made by Frosts. So they are mass produced, but in a way that's good because they're cheap, so you can buy them, and you don't want to be too precious of them.
I've actually got a lot of money on a knife. Yeah.
You can, yes, yeah, and sometimes it's worth spending money on it.
I've heard that certain Ramirez knives is a waiting list of sort of 10 years to get them.
Oh my goodness!
That's the knife that you got given.
I did get given, yeah.
Did you know?
Yeah, he's got one.
Yeah, it's a nice knife. But there are other people that make ones just as good, I reckon.
What, as good as Ramirez?
and they don't have such long waiting lists. So I know the guy that I get these spoon knives off. These are spoon knives, so they've got a bend for hollowing out the spoon. He makes ones similar kind of bushcraft knives with leather sheaths that are brilliant. So Mora, this is another Frost's one. This is a smaller carving knife.
Yeah, beautiful.
Which is good because it's a bit thinner in that direction. You can do slightly steeper concave cuts that you wouldn't be able to do with a fatter blade.
Okay.
And the good thing about this one, you might not be able to see it with the camera, is that it's a laminated blade. So that's a compromise between having softer steel on the outside that keeps its strength, its tensile strength, and hard steel in the middle that is hard for cutting but can be a little bit brittle.
Okay.
So it's a good way of getting a good sharp blade, is having a laminated blade. So I actually use this mostly for shaping the outside of the spoons after I've axed them. But anyway, getting back to sharpening, instead of using a stone, which you can do, the problem with a stone is, after use, they can end up with shallow dips in them, which makes it harder to get a flat bevel, which is the flat that's being created on the blade. So some people use diamond stones, which is a sheet of metal that's got tiny little diamond crystals or whatever stuck on top, and that will remain flat. But yeah, this is wet and dry paper. It's silicon carbide, and some people put it on panes of glass because glass is a very flat substance. So if you've got it in your workshop, you can do that, and you can use it wet as well, and the water will suck it down onto that glass. But for travelling about, it's been suggested to me by the guy that I get the tools off, Ben Orford, to use this wet and dry stuff. And all you do is you're just drawing it back. You can't go forward because you'll cut into the paper, but you just draw it back, holding the bevel flat against it, and that's all you do. And you want to do it the same mount on both sides.
You're a 3-man, are you?
I must admit, I was just thinking in my head, why did I do 3 then? I don't normally. I normally would just do that. No, so I know some people put some spray mount on the back of there, so you don't have to hold it. So, but this works fine for me. You don't want too much technology. You've got to be careful you don't cut yourself when you're doing it, or your leg. But I'm just doing this to keep the shape of the bevel. I don't actually know what kind of angle that is. It's about 25 degrees. I think most carving tools, the bevel, that angle there is about 25 to 30 degrees, I think. You have a steeper one for harder woods or harder materials, and shallower one for soft one. Okay, so we'll just go through a few grades basically. I'm starting with 240, which is my rough. You can obviously get, the lower the number, the rougher it is, so you can get different grades. And
so the first one you did was the 240, was it?
Yep, yeah, that's the roughest that I've got. So if I want to do rougher than that, I use a file or I use one of the stones that I've got. And then this is 320. Like I said, this is the first time I've done it on such a thin bit of wood, and I could possibly do without that bowing like that, but as long as I'm pushing it down flat against a bit of wood, I don't see why that would be a problem. Okay, and all we're trying to do now is keep that angle and get a very smooth finish. the smoother the finish on the tool, the better the tool is going to last, because it's going to glide through the wood better, and also because it glides through the wood better, you get a much nicer finish on the wood. So then this is going up to 600, so that's quite a jump, but the rougher ones are the important ones to get right. And these will go up. I mean, people use these for doing car bodies and things like that, and whatever, polishing metal. So, you know, I think you can go up to 1500 or something like that. But I'll show you what I do after this. 600 is as fine as I go. And each swipe, I'm kind of looking just to check to see that it's doing it right.
What do you check for exactly?
What I'm actually checking for is whereabouts it's hitting that bevel. Okay, so the danger is when you're doing it, and when you're a novice, is that you round it over, because instead of hitting it flat each time, you're hitting it at different places, and after a while it starts to round over, and that's not really what you want. But you're never going to get it perfect. You know, if you've got a microscope and looked at it, you're not going to get it perfect.
They're ugly, huh? Knives under a microscope are hell of an ugly, hell of a jagged thing.
Exactly, yeah.
It's amazing.
There are so many different things you can look for. I don't know whether you want me to go through them, but a burr can be created. So the burr is the bit of metal that's being pulled off, okay, that remains on the edge. So if the inside of my arm is the actual metal bevel, then the burr would be that bit on the top. And if you sharpen that side, it gets pushed over that way. So you can actually check for that. So if I've sharpened like that, then I can look to see if I've got a burr coming over. And that's a good sign, because it means that you're getting the edge, but you also want to check that you're getting the whole of the bevel. Okay? So you could just be taking off that fine bit there, which is going to round it over, and that would still give you a burr this side. So it's a bit of both, but with a bit of practice you don't need to be checking that every time. I certainly don't anyway, I can't be bothered. The other thing people say to do is to look at it, and you're looking to see if you can see anything reflected off that very fine edge. The wider that line is, the fatter it is. So if it's like that, that top bit's going to reflect more light off. If it's like that, it's going to reflect hardly anything off.
Okay. So how's it doing?
That's pretty much there with that, and then I'm going to strop it. So the main thing about stropping is to remove the burr, because there'll always be a burr left. On whichever side it is. You can just do it on leather.
On your belt, whatever.
And that just knocks it until it just flops off. Okay, so it's just kind of, I think it kind of work hardens. People talk about that with steel, and it'll just snap off. Like if you get a metal spoon, you can bend it, snap, like Uri Geller or whatever. But we're actually going to use some polish on here, some honing compound, and that to complicate things, we'll actually round over just the very last bit, which is what we want, just a tiny bit, because it's that compromise between having a lovely sharp blade and something that's going to last a bit longer.
Okay, interesting.
So we give a little bit back, we have a little bit of a compromise. And this is Veritas honing paste.
Veritas!
They make lovely turning cutters.
Yeah.
And you can get loads of different things. People use toothpaste, Brasso, stainless steel polish, jeweller's ruby, something, rouge, oh I can't remember, but and Tormek make a nice honing.
You can use
paste.
toothpaste these days?
Apparently so, yeah.
Well, just any old, we got herbal toothpaste here, does that?
Has it got abrasive stuff in it?
Probably, yeah, definitely.
Well, if it's got abrasive stuff in it, then it'll probably do something. Okay. Give it a go, and
so toothpaste on a bit of leather would do the trick, probably.
It would
on the back of your belt.
It should do something, yeah. Now, this is a very fine one, so it'll leave a very fine edge. Some can be fine, but they remove lots of material, which is what you want because it's quick. So it's like, oh, I'm going to work really hard and polish my blade, done. Yeah. Or you can have some that leave a very fine thing, but they're like, I'll make it fine for you, but you're going to have to be here forever. You know, so it's all a compromise, and I think probably the Tormek allegedly is the best. Yeah. Give it a go, see what happens.
I heard that with the leather belt thing, the secret to it was that the belt was really well used, so it had a lot of sweat and body kind of wax
salts
and whatever.
And stuff.
Yeah, exactly, and that was the secret to the good belt sharpening.
Yeah. Well